What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Bet the games we're betting. College football futures, World Cup, Women's World Cup, and also Premier League soccer starting. And heck, Friday night I got Liga MX, MLS games going. Lots of stuff we will get into in a little bit. Lots of stuff happening today. We're going to get into your Groovy Donut Twitter questions, but also Big Ten expansion sort of breaking as we speak. Jason, how you doing, brother?
What's up, buddy?
I'm good.
It's some great breaking news. College football is going to be ass. Is that what we're saying? No more Pac-12?
I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not good.
I'm not a full-on purist, but it's just I'm bummed out for sure. Like, I don't mind change, but this just seems like ill-informed and just flying by the seat of your pants, you know. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, my problem with it is the Big Ten is, first of all, this goes back to the bullshit alliance they created a long time ago with the Pac-12 and ACC. The Big Ten became untrustworthy with that. Then they became a pillager when they took UCLA and USC. And now I think, while I don't think they want to destroy the Pac-12, if the Pac-12 is going to fall apart, these are schools that they feel, a little bit of an obligation to, but mostly they see an opportunity with. I don't know that the opportunity is that great. I don't like USC and UCLA as members don't entirely make sense. But it's kind of fun. The two LA schools joined the Big Ten. You got the New York school sort of in Rutgers. You got a DC school. It's whatever. It's 16 teams is kind of the end.
How does it make sense, though? California schools?
Well, it doesn't make great sense. But what I mean is 16 teams, at least, to me, is the top level of what can be a little bit of a community, a little bit of a conference, something that still exists as a whole. You get to 18, 20, this shit's getting unwieldy. It's not going to be fun. I don't think so. And it's not done yet because 18 is a weird number. I don't think they stay at 18. I think other teams are going to be out in the cold and somebody else is going to join. The Big Ten, to me, at minimum, is going to wind up at 20. Whether it's this year or within 2 years, you're constantly going to be redoing the schedule. The Big Ten basketball season is really shortly going to get to the point that everybody is a one play. You play everybody once. You'll play Michigan once. A lot of these home road rivalries that you used to be able to create in the Big Ten, well, that was an interesting game at Purdue. Guess what? They got to come back to East Lansing. That shit's all going to be gone. And maybe there will be some level of divisions where there's a West Coast branch. Well, you had that. You had a Pac-12. I know college sports is all about money in a lot of ways, but it sucks when it's thrown in front of your face because this is not good for college sports otherwise. And I'm not even sure financially in the long term that this is great for college sports. I don't know that it is because I think it does piss people off. It makes me less curious and less interested in it.
And you let TV just control everything.
The media rights, yeah.
Yeah.
Stand up, have a backbone. Say, if you're the Big Ten and you're going to bring in Oregon and Washington, have a backbone and say we're also bringing Cal and Stanford. Tell your media partners that even if they're not as thrilled. If you're going to go that route. I don't think you need to go that route. Let those schools out there figure it out. I mean, at this point, seeing what's happened to college sports, in a perfect world, you just give back USC and UCLA. You'd say, sorry about that. Oops. I would love to see the Big Ten, instead of this, be more helpful to the Pac-12 and say, acknowledge that, yeah, we took two of your teams. Don't get me wrong, USC wanted to come. That was facilitated as much as anybody by USC. So it's not like the USC was happy there. The Pac-12 did screw that up. But college athletics is not better if the West is weak, if it's not a whole national brand. It's not better if it's two major conferences. It's not better if it's impossible to win a Big Ten title. It's not better if
we don't need to see you guys in the West Coast, right? Until like a bowl game or something like that.
Or a non-conference game. It's kind of fun,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
You guys have your side of the country. We can have ours.
It's just unnecessary.
And then we meet up at the end.
It's not good.
I mean, is that going to get rid of the Pac-12 at night? I mean, I used to love that's how you make up gambling losses on Saturday.
Well, no,
10 o'clock games at night. I mean, it's still going to be West Coast.
I think a big thing that we are going to see now, and this is going to be part of them trying to get more media rights money out of their partners, is the idea that they play, that there will be that window of games that the Big Ten is not currently in. The Big Ten will then be a part of. And there'll be more of those schools playing each other when they do that. And there can be some creative scheduling. And somebody like Kevin Pauga, who's been involved with that, who's at Michigan State, it'll be interesting to talk to him in the coming weeks about what he has to do. The big problem I have with this is the Big Ten's always been a big boy, a behemoth. But it's a flat-out fucking bully at this point. And it's not likable. The Big Ten Conference isn't likable. The league that I've always respected for having more broad-based opportunities, like the SEC wins in football by freaking cutting, I would say cutting their swimming program, but Michigan State did that too. But what I mean is there are SEC schools with almost MAC-level numbers of sports because they want to afford, they put everything into football. That's all that matters to them. I've always respected the Big Ten for thinking a little differently than that about the purpose of college sports and all that stuff. But that's not this realm. This is just, we're a bully. It's about money. There's eventually more money to be had, although this is not immediately a financial win for the Big Ten. Even if Oregon and Washington don't get full shares, I don't know if the Big Ten will lose a little bit off of what each school is supposed to get if they have to split the media rights deal differently. I can't imagine the schools would be really okay with that. But we'll see where that goes. So
does this mean college football is going to be ass in 5 to 10 years? Like, will guys like me that are not really a graduate of a team or alumni, right, and I'm just kind of a fringe college football fan. I mean, I love college football, but really if it changes like this, there's really no rivalries or anything like that. Still going to gamble and sit around and watch the games during the day, but am I as passionate about it?
I think there is a danger anytime you do something that most people don't like of what the fallout is from that. And nothing is above falling apart. No.
But I don't mind change. It's just, do you have a direction for where it's going? It seems like it's a free-for-all.
Well, it's not just change, but change that sucks. When you make change that sucks. If this is like Major League Baseball saying, you know what, instead of a pitch clock, we're going to demand 30 seconds between each pitch, at least. We'd like a minute. This is the wrong way forward, as I see it. And maybe it'll all prove wrong. We'll like it. You're still going to love your Saturdays to a large degree. You're still going to love your team. I mean, one of the things I always point out to people about college sports is ultimately the reason college sports is successful is our fierce love for alma mater, right? And that doesn't necessarily change. We would like the structure around it to be something we enjoyed, but that part alone doesn't change. It's why national writers are less relevant to me than local writers, except for the ones breaking the news today, obviously. But what I mean is it's why The Athletic made a mistake going away from local to do more national, because ultimately what drives college sports is the fierce love for each individual team. There aren't enough fans out there I'm a fan of college football, but I don't really have a team. There's a lot. There's
Doug Warren.
There's not a lot of that. Not enough to support a system. So people will still love Michigan State sports, but there will be. I think this is a ding. I don't think this is good. It's maybe it's a little more money long term, the next media rights deal, but it's not money you or I will ever see or ever really notice. It just doesn't fit, and 18 is weird, and you might as well get to 20. And who do those teams wind up being, and how quickly does that happen?
But then if you do 20, why not 22?
And what happens to it sucks for teams like Washington State and Oregon State that now wind up probably being part of the Mountain West, going to become mid-majors because we did this. One of the things I like and I think is important in conferences, is not everybody is Ohio State in a conference. You have to have your Purdues and Northwesterns and Minnesotas. And if you're Michigan State, if I'm Michigan State, I want Cal and Stanford, because what I don't want is I know Washington hasn't played a lot of good football till recently in the last 20 years. But what I don't want is just to keep adding every behemoth possible. That doesn't help Michigan State get to a playoff or do anything or have success. And if you're not winning, people aren't happy. You're not eventually making enough money. You have to be able to win. And the Big Ten right now is just getting harder and harder to win and separate yourself. This does not help Michigan State.
Could Michigan State go to the Mountain West? That would be nice, right?
I don't love this. I got to write a column for this over the weekend, and I'll get into some more thoughts then. A lot of stuff's just kind of, top of the head off things I'm thinking now, because I thought this morning it looked like the Pac-12 was going to survive, and I was pretty excited about that. And the idea, that people are going to the Big 12 for a few $1 million more. The Big 12 is so much less prestigious than the Pac-12. What are you doing? You can raise student fees in the temporary and make up the difference of $10 million pretty easily. I mean, it's not the most ethical thing to do, but lots of schools do it.
Well, if everyone's doing it,
well,
it's somewhat ethical.
It's more ethical than some of this stuff. Though the other thing I would say is I have issues with the transfer portal, the way it's constructed now in the one-time transfer, because I don't think it's best for kids, because kids make dumb decisions and they got dumb adults in their heads making, and some people can argue that's for them to do. But certainly concerns about NIL and greed and chaos and transfer portal from the higher-ups, when they're engaged in this shit, just shut the fuck up, right? If you are the Big Ten, the SEC, the NCAA, anybody who is just taking a chance at ruining colleges, jumping leagues, zero loyalty, zero accountability, zero trust. If you're the Big Ten after the whole alliance thing, and I understand it was Kevin Warren, and Kevin Warren did some good things and some not so great things. I don't know if he was a mistake yet. But if you are the Big Ten, you're not trustworthy. You don't get to say what's right and wrong in anything in college sports for a while, because you killed the Pac-12 and you lied about the alliance. And look, that's big business. It's money, whatever. That's fine. I'm just saying, you don't get to be the moral authority for a long, long freaking time. All right, as we often do before we get into the Groovy Donut Twitter questions, we begin our Friday or Thursday night, whenever we do the show. By the way, in a couple weeks, we'll be back to Thursday nights. But with what we are betting, presented by Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. You can bet these games. You can bet the Women's World Cup, get some NFL futures in. It's a good app. They've got all this stuff ahead of time, some great props as well. Jason, what are you betting this weekend?
Do you know who Jake Paul is? This guy that's like an internet sensation. I guess he's a boxer. Anyway.
Yeah, I thought he was an MMA guy, right?
I think he's a boxer. I don't know. Right. Boxer, MMA guy. But anyway, he's fighting this weekend. I don't get into these kind of things. Although I've seen Jake Paul. It looks like he can fight. It's not like kind of a joke thing. But he's fighting my boy Nate Diaz, and he's plus 310. And why not watch Nate Diaz be Nate Diaz and possibly win some money at plus 310? I mean, Jake Paul's minus 425, so I think that he's obviously the heavy favorite. But to sprinkle a little bit on my boy Nate Diaz this weekend.
All right.
And probably another baseball parlay.
I am, as I mentioned, if you listen to this Friday, I'm all in on the several games in the Leagues Cup between Liga MX and MLS. The three Mexican clubs, Monterrey, Tigres, UNL, and Club America playing tonight. I am on them. I'm on them in two-team parlays every which way, one-team parlay. I'm on the money line and the pick'em. So I'm probably going to lose a ton of money tonight.
What about Messi? You bet on him at all? Like, can you bet that he scores 3 goals? Is there any value there?
There might be. I don't know what the problem with the Messi lines is. So Messi he joined the worst team in MLS, and now they've gotten a lot better because of him, because of some other additions. But the other day, for example, when they were playing Orlando and they beat Orlando 3-1, they beat Orlando despite some bullshit. They had a really fluky penalty call that changed the game. Messi maybe should have got a second yellow. They're not going to give that to him. So you do have to account for the Messi bullshit. The ref's going to give him whatever. But I'm not saying he's somebody who fakes it. He's not over dramatic. I'm just saying, like, they're not going to kick Messi out of the game.
He's the one soccer player that doesn't fake it?
Well, there are numbers. I mean,
really?
You know who doesn't fake it as much as the women's game? Not that women don't fake it, but I'm just saying that, like, The reason
what women are you asking?
The reason I think they don't. The reason I think they don't is because there's such an epidemic of knee injuries and serious. Like if they look seriously hurt, people are really worried in the women's game. In the men's game, they know it's usually crap. The problem is I don't think that Miami is that much better than anybody else, but the lines they're getting suggested. I think the value is on the other teams. In other words, eventually, I also like Sweden Sunday morning. I'm on the Swedes money line, like plus 245, plus 250 against the U.S. If you can root against, if it may be unpatriotic, but the value is in the Swedes. How the Americans are favored, the way they're playing, they may win the game. The value is on the Swedes, and so that's what I am betting this weekend. Do we want to dig into some Groovy Donut Twitter questions?
No, we can hit the end music and get out of here if you want. I think that was good enough.
No, let's do
nice little update. Eric Schultz up first, of course. Does Izzo have a private bathroom in his office? He's got to, right? There's no way he uses a public office bathroom, right?
He does have his own bathroom. I think his own shower, his own. Yeah, he's got it all there. He's not out there in like the lobby of Breslin Center.
Damn, you can go into your office and come out a whole new person.
You imagine on like a game day, he's out there. He's just sitting there waiting in line. He's like, I know tip-off's in 5, but I need to pee. He uses his own bathroom.
Next one from Eric. In each of Tuck's first 3 seasons, we've had some idea of how the season was going to be after game 1. Will that be the case this year?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing about those games, you do learn some things sometimes against MAC opponents if they're not prolific, if they can't get a push up front. Sometimes things are lied to. Jacoby Windman, we thought was like a real dominant player. It turns out he's a dominant mid-major defensive end. He's a really good high-major linebacker. That lied to us. So there are things that can lie to you. We won't know everything until they face pressure, till they face adversity, till they face Washington, to me. But I think we'll have a sense of some things. And it's one of those weeks where you can learn more that's troublesome than be assured they'll be good. There can be more red flags. There's nothing that happens against Central Michigan where you'll say Michigan State's this is going to be a good year.
Even if they win 56-0?
Yeah, I mean there can be things where you go, boy, this is really interesting to watch. They may be good. They might be good. Those are dynamic receivers. That was a great quarterback play. Man, they ran the ball well. Boy, the defense looks tough. Let's see it somewhere else, but that's promising. You can have that. But you can also have red flags, and that's what
I can't wait to overreact.
You really want to. We will definitely do it.
I can't wait. Eric Schultz with this one. Wait, did Graham say he stood in a Heisman pose on one leg for 47 minutes in order to win tickets to a game that he already had tickets for? What the hell? Why would you do that?
Well, I didn't go to the bar thinking this was a thing. I just went to the bar with a young woman, and we were just hanging out, and there was this contest happening in front of us where people were standing. I didn't even know what the prize was.
So you broke free from a girl to go do this stupid contest?
We weren't. It wasn't like we were that,
How would you know? You're standing like an idiot.
That's a very good
Maybe
point.
Something would have went somewhere.
I was 19. I was a moron. So
been there.
But I just looked at the stage, and there were these guys competing against each other, and they could only do it for 5 minutes. I'm like, I can do that. I didn't know I could go for 40.
19-year-old couch. Screw the girls. I'm going to go do this Heisman pose.
Well, what made it weird is they did two guys at a time went up on stage, and if the guy next to me hadn't gone 46 minutes and 58 seconds, I would have gone 47. I thought we were going up there to beat the 5 minutes that the previous people would win.
So what do you do while you're standing like that?
They did feed you some beer. You sweat a lot under the lights.
I couldn't. Could you do that like for a minute now? I don't think I could do it for a minute.
Oh, I still got Barry Sanders balance. I'm just slow. Yeah. No. It's
soft on your feet.
Yeah.
Like Barry, just like Barry.
Like Charles Rogers, but without the speed.
Next one from Eric. When driving, what's the speed where if someone's tailgating you in the right lane, they're officially the a-hole and not you? Like I'd argue if you're doing 10 under, someone's on your bumper, that's on you to go faster. But if you're going 5 over, they should back off. Thoughts?
Where are you at here?
Yeah, unless you have to shit and trying to get home as fast as possible, it's an asshole move to tailgate in the right lane. Like just go around someone.
Yes.
Like why are you? Especially if they're doing the speed limit or above.
And even
the tailgate.
The tailgate anywhere. The tailgate somebody in the left lane if they are going the same exact speed and the person in the right lane. First of all, tailgating is dangerous. I'm not recommending that. But if somebody
what a PSA that is.
But if somebody's even passing in the passing lane, you shouldn't tailgate them. Let them finish the pass. Like, just if they're going at a rate that's like 10 miles an hour more than the person in the right lane to get around them, you don't need to be so impatient, Like,
there is nothing more infuriating though than when you're on the highway and someone is hugging the left lane.
No, it's
just
not.
like move
What
over.
are you doing? I wish they get pulled over for that. I really wish that
they should.
Exist. Yes, absolutely.
Dominic next. Wow, you let his in this time. Why has nobody ever written about Michigan players smearing shit all over the wall and destroying the locker room in 2018? It's whatever now, but MSU got taken to task for every misstep with Bush, with Tunnelgate. Anyone want to ask Harbs next time he's flexing his moral superiority?
Yeah, it's one of those things that really didn't come out at the time like the Tunnelgate did. The Tunnelgate happened in front of reporters who had their phones out, right? It's just different. And I do think if that happened in the opposite order, that it would have come out. Like, if that were to happen next year at Spartan Stadium, after what happened last year, it would be a big story. I would want a question of why would you smear shit? Like, it's disgusting.
I don't understand how you win in that. I guess, someone has to clean it up, but you had to put shit. Like, how did you grab the log? Did you go jump into the toilet and grab it? I mean, you lost already.
I don't care if you run a 4.4. I cut you from my football team.
Doesn't make any sense.
That's just disgusting. No, you're cut. You're never playing again. I'd blackball you from the business.
The business. Dominic, is there a vaccine to guard against reading a James Edwards, Graham Couch, Tyneham fandom thread? Holy shit, I'd rather attend a Tupperware party in Hans Jurgen's shag carpet basement than endure that heinousness again. Respectfully.
Yeah, I would advise anybody who follows me and enjoys anything that I do, and God bless you for that. I don't know why. To just mute the word Tottenham, because you'll get out. You
guys can't text that to each other though.
It's more fun to tweet at James and Phil and just give them shit. And James actually became a fan as a kid, so I respect his fandom. He's not some 30-year-old who decided on a team and then pretends to be a diehard. It's his fandom.
So
is
you
real.
think people enjoy it? That's why you do it on Twitter?
No, I think it drives. Well, a few people enjoy it. Yes, I know a few people enjoy it. A few people really enjoy it because I hear from them. I hear from them. But wow. I know that it drives James and Phil nuts, and that's why I do it.
Oh wait,
we're dropping MFers now.
Sorry, James. Dominic, what's the best pizza topping combination, and why is it pepperoni, bacon, and banana peppers?
That's definitely a good one. What's your favorite pizza combination?
I'm not a big banana peppers guy. I like pepperoni. I like veggies on my pizza.
Yeah, I like a house supreme pizza. Like I'm a big fan of all the stuff.
Yeah.
You know what they have at this place called Sleepwalker in Lansing. Really good local place. They have a dill pizza with like pickles. You wouldn't think, and this white. It's incredible. It's fantastic. They do it really, really well. When I first heard about it, I was like, I don't know. And to taste it, they obviously wouldn't keep making it if people didn't like it. So it's worth trying.
They should bring one in for us.
It would be nice.
Yeah. Dominic with this one. Graham, my homie. Shrinking is, in fact, a fabulous show, but you cannot pull a Just Trust Me, Bro with Jason after Girls 5 Eva. Love Actually, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med, Loyola Chicago, and Chicago Deep Dish, right?
Appreciate you, Dominic. I know my track record with Jason isn't great, but Shrinking, I stand by. It is that good. It is that. I think you would like it. I think Therese would like it. I think you'll like Shrinking. I will absolutely stand by this one. It's a different level show than I'd like Girls 5 Eva. I like Only Murders in the Building. I think it's great, which is coming back this week. There are lots of shows that I like that I don't know that you'll like, even if I push them on you. This one I think you'll like.
Is the first episode of Shrinking slow?
No, but
15 minutes in, if I get bored, I'm out.
No, but it gets better.
Okay.
It's not slow.
And that was a good spin. All right.
What I mean is it's not slow and it gets better. So it's really good.
Better.
Yeah, yeah. And Jason Segel's really good. He's really, really good in it. And so is, it's a, Harrison Ford's fantastic. The young woman whose name I don't know, who plays the third shrink in their practice, is maybe my favorite character on the show. It's just incredibly well done.
Dominic with this one. Now that Graham has been given 327 examples of irrefutable evidence regarding the existence of the blue wall, he's finally conceded that there's at least a blue curtain. Given the state of all sports franchises in Michigan, is this the biggest W we've had since the 2008 Stanley Cup?
By the way, if you want blue wall, blue curtain, Groovy Donuts, they will do that for you. They'll do the wall. They'll do a blue wall on a, they'll put an M, they'll put a little picture of the Detroit Free Press behind a wall. They'll do whatever. They will. You can get blue wall Groovy Donuts. Just go to groovydonuts.com, place your order. Andrew and Monica will absolutely take care of you. You can also swing by 2 locations, open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Thursday through Sunday, on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing, and also in Williamston. So Blue Wall Donuts available. You need to pre-order those. You can't just show up. They're not going to have them ready, but you could do that.
I'm not talking about Messi.
So to Dominic's point, when I say blue curtain, what I mean is I do recognize that there are aspects of why people see it as a blue wall. I don't believe in the blue wall, but I understand why it appears sometimes there is one and why that can be frustrating. And I am also willing to, and I think people need to, try to do this as objectively as possible. I'm willing to be convinced of anything. So keep track of things, but keep track of everything. Like you gotta search for stories. You gotta read both sides. You gotta think about both angles to things, and give me examples. If you I'm open-minded, and I would, if it was really bad enough, I would reach out to the editors and say, this is what I'm hearing, and this is why, and see what we can do about it.
All right. Kurt Wisniewski next. Should the Big Ten add Florida State, Clemson, Oregon, and Washington and become the Big 20?
Well, I mean, and keep in mind, a lot of people entered these before the latest news, but
Big 20 has a ring to it.
You're not going to change the branding of Big Ten. But Florida State and Clemson, you don't need. You just don't need them. Number one, it just gets harder to win if those teams, like academically, though they don't do anything for you. Branding, they don't do anything. Clemson's had a nice run. Florida State, okay, whatever. But you'd rather have Virginia, North Carolina types out of that region if you're going to do it. And I think you're more likely to go Cal, Stanford. And I think they are going to pause because Oregon and Washington were vetted a year ago, and they knew that they would be willing to take them. This was an easier decision. I think the next step, because when you get beyond 20, you talk about unwieldy. I think it's unwieldy now. It gets really, really bad. What are you, even a league at some point? Or are you just an association, like a subset of the NCAA at a certain point? But who they want to go after next, who they want to wait for, what their goals are. I would like to say it'd be dumb to ever go bigger than 20, so these next 2 would be really important, and you're never going to kick anybody out. That said, they just went to 18 when it didn't make sense. So I don't know, and there are a lot of new presidents, a lot of people in temporary roles there. I don't think they're making great decisions, to be honest.
Next one from Kurt. Why wouldn't the Tigers oblige Erod, give him the $20 million to trade him, and take back prospects? Harris failure. So he wanted 20. Erod wanted 20 more million.
Reports, I think it was Rosenthal at The Athletic, said that he wanted like $20 million more on his deal, and to not opt out. In other words, he wouldn't opt out if you. The other thing the Tigers can do is just do that themselves. They have more pitching. They need hitting. I do think it's a fail. And then, again, non-salary cap sport. You shouldn't be doing this if you're pinching pennies, if that stuff's really that important to you. It was a failure because they had a chance to get, I think, a couple young, interesting bats, and that's what you want to add in the organization.
But is Rodriguez going to stay? Do we have to overpay him? No.
And do you want to?
Right. Is he in the future? Because I can understand telling him to F off with his $20 million thing.
Well, $20 million may not be bad. If $20 million got you, because I think it might cost more than that based on what's left on the deal. If $20 million more got him to opt in, total $20 million, I think that might be worth it for 3 years of the pitcher that he is, where you think you'll be in 3 years. I think the agent got involved and screwed some things up too here. If you read between the lines,
I think the wife got involved.
The wife might have too, but I think the agent didn't help, and I think that was a problem. And I do think they ran out of time.
He's just being an agent, probably.
Yeah, right. He's representing his guy.
Right.
Yeah, it's and ultimately, if Scott Harris would not, and I understand the deadline itself is some of the leverage, but if and the Dodgers were waiting on some other things, but if this had been done like 3 days earlier and this happened, then there's room to pivot. The problem when you do it right up to the deadline is there's no room to pivot, and that's why they got screwed.
Last one from Kurt. Doesn't Mel Tucker sound more confident about the team at his pressers than previous seasons?
Yeah, He does to a degree. I mean, last year, I think they thought they were going to be okay. They didn't see last year being the way it unfolded. He does seem to like this team. And I don't know Mel Tucker like I know Izzo in terms of knowing when, like I can read the Izzo tea leaves when he really likes a team, either likes the guys personally or thinks they're going to be really good. And it's in his tone. It's little nuances to the way he speaks about something. And you can get a sense of, there's something here. I don't have that read on Tucker yet. He does seem to like this team. We'll see what that means.
But is he going to say, nah, we're fucked?
No, but he doesn't have to talk about how much he likes the team as much as he's talking about them. Nobody's asking him, and he's doing it.
As a head coach, though? Because then people are going to read into that.
Not necessarily. I don't think we would have. It stood out how much he's talked about how much he's liked them.
All right. Remember D'Antonio at the Big Ten Media Days when we were there, and he looked like he was happy as hell. This is the team.
That was 2019, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he thought and that again, coaches can be wrong. Sure. Mark D'Antonio in 2019, I truly believe in late July, thought he had a squad that could really contend. And if you go back to 2019, there are moments where he didn't look wrong. Those first quarter and a half at Ohio State, the offense just never got itself there. And but I think he thought he had a good team. I really think he believed in that group.
Plus size softball dad next. I'm tired of reading all these stupid tweets about Big Ten expansion. Is Cal part of the plan or not? I want to win my bet with Graham.
Yeah, I did bet, what did I bet? My left nipple or a tattoo or something on Cal not being part of the Big Ten.
You bet your left nipple?
I bet something big.
So how are you going to, who wins that? Plus size softball dad gets your nipple?
Yeah, he's plus size already. Maybe he wants an extra nipple. I don't know what the bet was. I would be asked to be reminded.
Richard Kane next. How long until TV suits convince some conferences to kick out weak sisters like Northwestern, Vandy, and others?
I don't think it's going to ever happen. That said, there are things that are happening right now that I didn't think would happen. I think one of the advantages to coming to the Big Ten and one of the challenges in thinking it through, if you are a team that's on its way, is, not since the University of Chicago, which made way for Michigan State, has a team left the Big Ten. People don't do it. Nebraska was obviously a little unhappy during the pandemic. I don't know that they're always a great fit. The money's too good to. They're not going to get kicked out. And so it's kind of a lifetime binding deal. And certainly the Big Ten is not going to start kicking out people. I would be really if the Big Ten kicks out a school, unless they did something like there was some huge school athletic program wide gambling ring that had been orchestrated for 10 years and involved 75 coaches and 340 players, and unless something like that happened, I would bet I would actually get a tattoo.
Bet your right nipple.
Or my right nipple. That wouldn't happen. They're never going to kick those teams out.
So what's the tattoo? Because I think it does happen. Why would they give a shit? I could see them being cutthroat and be like, get out of here.
Yeah, I'm the Big Ten's bitch. I don't know. Whatever you want the tattoo to be. I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, that's pretty wordy. But.
Yeah, it is wordy. I don't know where you put that. Keep it small then, hopefully. Maybe on the underside of my...
What was the former Big Ten commissioner?
Kevin Warren? Oh, no, Delaney?
Delaney. Get his picture.
I'll get Jim Delaney, his photo
face.
With his eyes looking through people.
Laser, red lasers coming out of it.
No, the one thing that would be a sign first is if they start having unbalanced media rights shares. That happens when new teams come in sometimes, but it hasn't happened for the Purdue's or Northwesterns or anybody like that. To have that sort of thing, to get a tiered, if the Big Ten could become a tiered system, I could see that at some point. And Michigan State, I think that's why you want to keep spending, you want to keep winning, you want to keep making the right decisions, because Michigan State should be on the right side of that, but you want to be careful.
Chris Eastlick next. Is it wrong that I mostly hate conference realignment because it probably makes guys like Gary Barta happy?
Do you think it makes Gary? I don't know. I can't imagine what's actually going on in Gary Barta's head. When I picture Gary Barta, and I don't know the man, so I shouldn't say this, but he's frustrating as hell. I just picture the dumbest dog, just sort of thinking of looking at the sky.
Wow.
I just can't. I cannot.
This all started with a no offense.
That's rough. I take that back. Fix that in post.
Chris Eastlick, follow up to number one. Seriously, besides these corporate guys, who actually wants the super conferences? I don't think I've heard a single person say, man, I'm so happy the Big Ten might get Washington.
Yeah, unless you're like an alum who lives in Seattle. Unless it's a very specific circumstance to you, I don't think people think this makes sense.
Like someone in Washington going, I can't wait to play Iowa at Iowa.
Yeah, and look, for USC and UCLA, this is probably good. And they will probably have, you talk about protected rivals, the scheduling will get interesting, say in football especially. And there will be more opportunities for in non-rev sports to, although, by the way, LA to Seattle is still a heck of a flight. It's still a farther flight than MSU to Rutgers. It's still a haul. Like the Big West is, the out West is expansive. And once you're on a plane, like how much does it really matter? But
what if Chris Solari books it?
Well, then it's going through
Even
Denver
longer.
and San Juan, and it's going to take a while. That's the other problem. If you're Washington, you don't want to hire Solari as your travel coordinator or the assistant to the traveling secretary, whatever Costanza was for the Yankees. No, I don't think anybody's happy about it. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for the main Big Ten schools, and it may make sense for the schools out west. It may give them some flexibility in another time slot. And so maybe there's some stuff there that eventually works, and I'll change my mind. Look, if there is the Big Ten after dark every week, and there's some good Big Ten games at 10 p.m. that we're watching, and we don't wind up hating this. But I'll tell you what I'm not going to like, though. I'm not going to like only playing Indiana, Wisconsin, Purdue, Michigan once in basketball. I'm not going to like that. Or if you play teams twice and you don't play a lot of teams at all, then you can't really have a conference champion. And then is it really a league? The whole point in a league is you play each other. You're one, right? This is how you determine things. In football, like they just created this system for 16 teams. They just created it where you're going to be able to play everybody every 2 years. And you've got in one protected rival and some two. You're going to have to get rid of all those two plays. So the idea that you might have a protected rival, like Iowa's dream of keeping Minnesota and Nebraska and Wisconsin all as protected rivals, that shit's gone. So if you had 20 teams or even it's just 18, so there's 17 other teams in the Big Ten, and you have one protected rival, you could still play everybody every other year, and that's just what it would be, I guess. The other thing is, if you get to 20, you ought to probably go to a 10-game Big Ten schedule. Who needs non-conference games out west when you got Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA? Like what? Who needs these other non-conference games? Just go to a 10-game schedule, play a couple MAC schools, and call it a day.
Next one from Eastlick. Do you think the MAC eventually just goes FCS?
I don't know, and I have mixed feelings on this. I think there are MAC schools where football is part of the front porch of the university. I think what Western Michigan did a few years ago was a huge deal there. It was a huge deal in the state when they made the what do they call it? The New Year's Six Bowl game and went unbeaten and all that stuff. That was a big deal. And it was a big deal on that campus. I bet you it helped enrollment the next year. You don't really get that as much in the FCS. And with the new playoff, in that case, you'd be in the playoff. That ability to have that dream, I think, is kind of cool. That said, I've often thought the MAC should focus more on hoops than football. They don't make money on football. Let's not pretend they do. In the MAC, it's very different. People go out and pay players. You're not paying them in the MAC. If anything, if we just want to go on revenue, players are giving back their scholarships. But because what you want to do in the MAC is, or what they do in the MAC is, they fund athletics the way you would fund a department of your education or the communications department, and then you make as much money back as you can. But they have to pay a lot of it up front. They do not make money on athletics in the MAC.
Chris Eastlick with this one. Would Jason pay $1.99 for 11 months for me to be his personal meteorologist, just so he doesn't get TV weather alerts for 12 counties to his east? Eastlick, I would pay $11.99 for you to get those things off my fucking television. It scares our dog. It's 2023. I don't know why we still have to alert people that weather is coming in this archaic-ass way where you slap some weird 1987 TV fucking thing on there, and then it sounds like awful dial-up, and then some guy, warning. Like, you don't, it scares our dog. Figure out another way. I mean, is it for people that don't have cell phones to check the weather every day? Well, guess what? They don't have any other entertainment, so they're watching the weather on the TV, so they know there's a storm coming. Anyway,
so yes is the answer.
Yeah,
Chris. Yes.
Yes, it's dumb. In the car, it does it in the car as well. It's like, holy shit. Chris Eastlick, is there a rivalry that just needs to have each team play a football game against another school more than Michigan and MSU right now? The stupid things people are arguing about on this site are incredible.
Well, I don't think that game's going to happen anymore. I think Michigan State now has a game against Florida State, Clemson, and Cal in its place. So that rivalry. No, I'm kidding. But that doesn't solve anything because that just makes one side just difficult to deal with. And
I don't see a lot of it on Twitter because I don't really follow those people. And if I see it, it just makes me laugh, and I don't just get involved.
My least favorite thing I've discovered isn't the sniping and the just whatever. That's fine. It's the overprotection of each team's coach. Because if you're a Michigan State fan, you know who doesn't give a shit about you? Mel Tucker. If you're a Michigan fan, you know who doesn't give a shit about you? Jim Harbaugh. These men do not care about you. Do not care overly about them. You can love your school. You can love them while you're your coach. You can want them to succeed. But this protection is if they are somehow doing no wrong because they're your coach when they don't give two flying shits about you in the reality. Like if they take another job, you know who? I remember once Izzo talking to me and Izzo getting annoyed at me about something, and he didn't exactly say like, I thought we were friends or whatever, but whatever he alluded to, it alluded to more of a personal relationship we have. And I said, Tom, you don't know my wife's name, like we're not there, you know what I mean? Like I don't,
well, did you tell him your wife's name?
I probably did. He probably forgot at this point, and I'm not, nor do I want that from him. I like the professional, cordial relationship I have with Tom Izzo. The honest and frank, the willingness to go. I like.
But it would be cool to be boys with Izzo, though.
I didn't.
Not for you, but for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you're actually boys with Mel Tucker, not because you give him something, or not because he, then fine. If you're actually boys with Jim Harbaugh, fine. But to protect these people, like they give two shits. If Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL after this season, you know who he's not going to care about? You, and you probably won't care that much about him.
Don't you talk about my ball coach. DeUper next. At least 7 Iowa State players are now being investigated for gambling on games. There's no way it only happened there, right? What are we doing?
The Iowa stuff is intense.
Wasn't it like the Iowa State quarterback? Didn't his mom, he had an account with his mom's name on it?
Because he was underage. What's weird is a couple things. One is how big it's gotten in the Iowa State situation, despite all these gambling apps being in a lot of states. And you're going to get caught, by the way. They have eyes on you for this stuff. This is not.
How'd they catch them?
Internet
sleuths?
No. There's like a commission that monitors this stuff through the DraftKings and all this. This is why legalized gambling works, because it's actually monitored. Whereas the old days, and I don't understand why these guys can't figure it out, because the old days, you either have a bookie in the dorms, you have an app on your phone through somebody else, and that's how you did it. And there's no taxes, there's nobody paying attention. If you're an athlete, especially if you want to
pay your taxes if you won,
I mean, I would,
yes,
but other people might not. So yeah, it is weird how this has happened there, and I'm sure it has happened to other places. I actually would be very surprised if somewhere else doesn't follow.
So
this.
Will this slow it down, meaning players are getting caught? Will other players see this and I can't gamble?
Yes, I think this will be a huge deterrent. Okay. Because guys, the Ulis kid, Aaron Ulis, who transferred from Iowa to Nebraska, he's never going to play college basketball again once this goes. I mean, they are, and that guy, he gambled like $34,000. You give guys NIL money and a gambling account, it's like, holy shit, here we go. And because one of the things I used to think about young college kids gambling is, at least if you're going to learn the mistakes, then you don't have that much money to lose. And one of the advantages to the old way with a bookie and cash and all that stuff is you kind of had to have some money to bet. No, I guess guys would front you some money, but in the
But you
dorms,
had 2 weeks to pay.
yeah, you got a little credit card. You can get yourself in a little bit of heat if you just keep. And I do think this would be a deterrent.
To Uper, the amount of bizarre rulings by the refs seems like it's gone up. Surely it's gambling related. Question mark.
That would be a big if that ever
Last
comes
night?
out.
Is he talking about last night, that game, the Hall of Fame game?
Yeah,
It was great to see football for like 15 minutes.
I always like the Hall of Fame game for a second, and then I'm tired of it. Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Andrew Gauthier. Did Scott Harris drop the ball on the Rodriguez deal, or did Erod pull the rug out? Are you concerned he didn't have a backup plan, or are you more or less confident in Scott Harris now?
Where are you on? Are you more or less confident in him after this?
I'm obviously less confident because that seems like a move that Al Avila would get screwed over by. So, I mean, you have to give the guy time, but obviously with that deal, it's just I don't know why you wouldn't have some sort of contingency plan of another team. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I am a little less confident because it seems like this is the type of thing that Troy Weaver would have pulled off. In other words, you know what I mean? Like with the Pistons, every time you're like, oh, wow, well, that's interesting. You know, Troy Weaver pulls it off. We never hear about the stuff behind the scenes, the stuff that falls through.
Well, the NBA, I'm sure it's a little easier to maneuver than the baseball old school style, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think both Rodriguez pulled the rug out and I'm less confident. And I do think.
But would you want to sign a guy that doesn't want to win a ring? Like, yeah, all right. Did he really? Are we going to be happy that he stayed in Detroit, or it's because he didn't want to go to L.A.? His wife didn't want him going to L.A. Like, I don't know if I want that guy with that kind of competitive spirit, right?
He's a good lefty pitcher. I think he's been real. I would sign him again. If we were in a salary cap world where you have to decide how much of the cap do you want to give a guy like Rodriguez, that's a different conversation. We are not.
But that's why we need Illich to come out and say how much he's willing to spend so we can root for, okay, well, we don't want to spend this and this here, I guess. Like, so we know.
No, Illich, this is the summer. It's got to happen. And you know, Seidel at the Free Press, Jeff Seidel wrote a pretty good column, I thought, on Harris. It was a good follow column. And then also sort of about Illich and this being the summer now. Like, you've got to do it. And that heat needs.
Does Chris Illich know that?
That heat needs to be constant because you don't want to ever get to a place like the older Wirtz, not the one who just died in Chicago, but you don't want to ever be an owner where you're screwing things up for an entire city to the point that we would be better off if you were dead. Like, we need you to go away. So like the Ford
family, William Clay Ford.
Well, but he was not. I don't think he was a bad dude. He just was inept. You know, he wasn't like not putting games on TV or not doing. Like the Wirtz in Chicago, it was like they didn't televise local games for a generation because they thought that would help drive attendance, which is an old bad stuff.
Andrew, if Hauser starts for MSU, is that a good or bad sign for the season? Like starts at some point in the season or the beginning of it?
It depends on what Hauser is. I mean, it could be both. It could be anything. Because I do not think Hauser's going to start the year as the quarterback. So if he does start the year as the quarterback, he's probably had a really good camp where he is somehow – because I think the baseline of Noah Kim, at least what they would know based on practice, is the floor is pretty high. So if outside of an injury, if Caden Hauser, a couple classes younger, starts, that means he's had a hell of a camp. And – so I guess that's a good sign if he were to start the season.
Last one from Andrew. Have either of you guys seen Justified? The reboot takes place in Detroit, and it's pretty sweet.
I haven't. Have you?
No.
No, me neither.
I don't know what is it on? Netflix?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me look this up.
I can't stop this feeling.
It's got some appealing characters. It's a TV series, obviously. An American neo-Western crime drama.
What does that mean?
On FX. It started in 2010.
Neo?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Got Walton Goggins in there.
I like Goggins.
Yeah.
Professor, next. Bazooka to the head. Who has more W's this year? Michigan football or Detroit Lions? MSU football or Peyton Thorne-led Auburn?
Bazooka time.
The Michigan Lions one is a really good one because these are actually really good from the professor. But
is Thorne going to start for sure?
No, we don't know that yet. I mean, the camp's just starting. So, but Michigan football, the over/under is 10.5, and the Lions over/under is 9.5. I mean, they're in the ballpark, right? So, I would say, boy, if you had to bet that, which way would you go?
I would go Lions just
Would you?
because all of the hype, and there's some people in the media putting their reputations on the Lions. So I think at 9.5, I think that this team could win 10 games if everybody's hype is right.
I would probably go Michigan. Yeah, I don't know.
That schedule is really easy.
Yeah, and they don't have they don't have as many games to play with, but the idea that the Lions are likely to get to 11 wins seems like a lot, but yeah, I would go Michigan, I think, if I had to bet it. MSU or Peyton Thorne led Auburn. I don't know enough about Auburn's team right now, so it's hard for me to answer that.
Ken Chu next. Who is the best, not most accomplished quarterback in MSU history?
So in other words, most accomplished would be Connor Cook, probably, at least in terms of wins.
How far back are we going?
The best guy who flashed for a minute and was great. Yeah, I mean, there are moments with, like, I mean, you go back to Ed Smith. I didn't see him play. You go back to, God, there are a couple moments.
Are you talking about the Ed Smith?
Yeah. But you could go back to Jeff Smoker junior year before things, or was it sophomore year? Whatever
Off
it was.
the field, am I right?
Yeah. I mean, there are moments with him. There were moments with Cousins. I wouldn't put Hoyer in that group. I think it's Connor Cook still. I mean, it's both.
Well, it's hard to take away the winning part.
Yeah, I mean, but he also was the best at key times. Like, it wasn't just that they won with him. I mean, in 2015, I know that, you know, he disappeared at the end and was beat up and didn't play in the Ohio State game. But he also had some, I mean, that Rutgers game that year, that 24-17 win against a pretty good Rutgers team was, I mean, when the line was all beat up and he got knocked down 9 times, I still say to this day, is one of the best performances I've seen maybe the best performance I've seen by an MSU quarterback ever, just in terms of everything that was on his shoulders.
Corey Ostrom next. Are you guys at all concerned with Noah Kim's lack of size? At 190 pounds, it's hard for me to think that he will make it through the season without an injury. Hauser is 220 pounds and looks like a Big Ten quarterback built for the long haul.
Sure, that stuff matters to a degree.
Wasn't Bryce Young under 200 pounds?
He is.
He's a small guy.
And he's supposed to be fleet-footed. I think one of the good things for MSU, though, is that if there isn't a huge difference between these guys, you don't worry about that as much. When you have a dude, and he's clearly your quarterback, and you don't know if you have enough talent in the room behind him, you really worry about injuries. I don't think you are going into the season as much if Hauser can be ready.
And with Bryce Young, he had like pretty much an NFL offensive line at Alabama. So.
And he also had a great feel. I don't think we don't know that about Hauser or Kim yet or Sam Levitt. Like Bryce Young had an unbelievable feel for the pocket, right? You just watch him dip out of things, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's because you know you have an NFL offensive line in front of you.
And you're only 140 pounds, and if you get hit, you're going to die.
Corey Ostrom. If Washington and Oregon join the Big Ten, and with rumors swirling regarding Florida State and Clemson, do we walk back the thought of no divisions and go to a regional pod division system? A balanced schedule system would be impossible with that many teams.
So if you get to 20, let's do the math here, which is the best thing on a podcast.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. So you're talking 19 other teams, one protected rival that you're supposed to play every year. So that leaves, the problem is that only leaves 16 other teams in a 9-game schedule that you can play. So that only gets you to 17. So you have to go to a 10-game schedule. In a 10-game schedule, you could play everybody. If you go to a 10-game schedule, you can play everybody every other year and still have your one protected rival and that sort of thing. And that the problem is, again, Michigan and Ohio State are a protected rival. Michigan State and Michigan, protected rival. So Michigan has 2. How does that work? That doesn't work to play everybody every. It doesn't work at 20. I guess it's still at 18. To my point, where you can have 17 others, it works in a 10-game system. In a 9-game system, it doesn't work. We're playing everybody. This doesn't work. And yeah, I don't mind some sort of pod system to some degree. How do you get there? What does that look like at the end? Who plays in the championship game? What is that? I mean, what's the point? This doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Maybe it makes some greed financial sense, but if that's all it is, then great. Then let's just ruin it because college sports are phenomenal if they're not ruined. And I have a feeling we are on the verge of making things less enjoyable. Why do that?
Nah, last one from Corey. Why are we supposed to be mad at Harris bungling the Erod trade? A quality veteran starter is great for the youth on the staff, and he has said he likes it in Detroit. No more rebuild, time to strengthen, rework the deal, extend him, and fuck Alavila. Mr. Ass.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at the way the trade flub feels better is if they re-sign Rodriguez. If you get 3 more years out of him, then it's like in his prime, and he's a good lefty, he's a 2 or 3 starter on a real good team. Then fine. Then that
he's gonna be 31, right? Is that his prime?
Yeah, for pitchers, yeah. I mean, how old? Yeah, Verlander's 40.
Yeah, but he's Justin Verlander.
Right,
he's a Hall of Famer.
But I'm saying, he's a guy who could. Lefties tend to age well. I think you could have.
I mean, what about
3,
Nolan
4 more
Ryan?
years.
I mean, you're just going to name Hall of Fame fucking pitchers? I mean, go ahead.
That's my thing.
It's a good bit. Nick Palmer, what is happening to The Athletic? They are losing a lot of their good writers. Is their product falling off? They should hire Los.
Yeah, well, there are a couple things going on here.
Subs up.
They've changed course in terms of their priority, and it is not the local markets like it once was. And I think that's a mistake. I think their initial idea was brilliant, and it was you pair a really talented writer with a brand, or one who can build a brand with that particular team or coverage area, couple teams, and with really good writing, and you're going to have something, because people like Brendan Quinn was a great example of this, and there are only so many Quinns in the world. I get that. But if you were a Michigan State basketball fan when he was covering MSU in Michigan, or a Michigan basketball fan, you felt like, boy, you really enjoyed his work, and you had to have an Athletic subscription to get it, and it's your team. So there's this emotional tug. When he's a national writer, and if he's covering things you don't care about, yeah, you may like his work, but the pull isn't there. Writers themselves are not the pull. The team is the pull, and the combination of good writing with the team people care about was everything, and I thought that was the right model. It was imperfect. There are places where there's not as intense interest, or you didn't have the right writer in there, but I thought that was the play. A couple things happened. One, SI and ESPN, the layoffs that they had that made them go national earlier, I thought changed things. People were naive to the idea that it was a startup that was always going to sell itself. So there are things that that should have been predictable, but they've changed course, and there are a lot of really good writers still. There's still a lot of really good work, and there's some really good stuff that is local focused. Colton Pouncey covers just the Lions. My buddy Scott Powers covers just the Blackhawks, but he was employee number 2 at the Athletic all around. Scott Powers was. I mean, I've seen this from the beginning. I remember his initial conversations with something called the Athletic that he and I did not think was going to work. I have talked with the founders of the Athletic early on when that was happening, when they were talking about getting into Michigan and Cleveland. I know who this guy. I remember their beginning intentions, and they wound up being different. They wound up changing course, especially once they sold.
Jobin, next. Have you ever considered tracking the bets you give out? If I tracked them and sent them to you, would you read them on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I track my regular bets. So, like I was doing that last year with football, but
I probably should track. I should be organized enough to track. There are other things I need to get right on this show beyond tracking the bets I give out. But we do that in football season. I mean, in football season, between Eric Schultz helps us with the standings, but also, we keep track of the records that.
Jobin, would you like an internship?
Yeah. I mean, if you keep track of the bets I give out, I will read them on the show without question. 100%.
And maybe get a gift card.
147%.
Suburban Spartan Dad next. Who is the best, most interesting guy on the current MSU football team to interview or interact with as a journalist?
I really don't know yet, because it just started this season, and there are a lot of new guys who are interesting. Like Dylan Tatum, great conversation with him yesterday, and has a lot of personality. He's willing to say what's on his mind. Seems like a bright kid. And then at the end, somebody had asked Noah Kim. Noah Kim was talking about the team bowling thing they did or something, and saying he was a pretty good bowler. He bowled like a 170. And word got back to Tatum that Kim had been asked about his bowling, and Tatum's like, nobody asked me about bowling. I'm a great bowler. I have my own ball. I bowl a 270. Like all these.
I have my own ball.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. Interesting kid, but there are probably many more of them I don't know yet. But that's one of the best parts of the job, to be honest. Is you get to know, especially when you get to know people in conversation like that, and you get a sense of them, and one of the things I think is really important in sports is humanizing people that we see under helmets, and you sort of write as sort of objects on a field trying to get things done. Humanizing who people are that are on the team you're covering or on the team that people are rooting for, and getting to know them and share their stories and give people a sense of them, I think, is one of the best parts of the job.
Jay Riemenschneider next. No ifs, ands, or buts. No wavering, no stouting it. Iran nuclear missile to the head. What is MSU's football record when we wake up on November 25th? Call it right here, right now.
Is November 25th after the Penn State game?
Bazooka time.
Hold on. All right, yeah. If I had to call it right now, I'm going to say they start 3-2 through that tough stretch through the Iowa game. They beat Rutgers. That gets them to 4-2. Lose to Michigan, 4-3. Split Minnesota, Nebraska. That's 5-4. Lose to Ohio State, 5-5. Beat Indiana, 6-5. Fall to Penn State, 6-6 at the end of that. That's where I'm putting them.
It's going to be fun. Next one from Jay.
Oh, we missed one from the second one from Suburban Spartan.
Oh shit! Sorry. Who has been the most? Who is the best, most interesting? Wait, who has been the most entertaining person to interview with you in your career covering Michigan State?
It's Derek Nix. Derek Nix is one of the few people that for a while, I mean, there have been others that have been really good, a really good quotes, a really good conversationalist. But Derek Nix was, you did not know what he was going to say. And it was fantastic. And you had to hear it because he was going to say something funny or absurd sometimes. And he was just blunting on it. Yeah, Derek Nix is the most entertaining person.
Next one from Jay. With all that being a college coach entails and the way the game is going, NIL and transfer portal, I'm pretty sure all of them are always on edge. But do you think Mel Tucker is more so? Does all the talk about his big contract affect him after 5-7 season and recruiting where it is on August 1st?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe it does in private moments, but I think he's got a great deal. I think the contract helps. And I think he's pretty comfortable where things are. I think he knows he has time to do what he needs to get done. I think where you see coaches struggle with pressure is when they don't believe in their administration and they don't think they have time. They feel rushed. They don't feel time to get done what they want to get done. They feel like they might need to cut corners to get there. I think Tucker feels like, as challenging as this is, he's got the time to do it, and I think that takes some of the edge off.
Last one from Jay. Did you ever listen to the podcast I asked you to so you could comment on the culture under Izzo and D'Antonio?
It is saved under I did save the podcast and download it. I have not listened to it yet. At some point, I will.
1.5 speed. Spartan Johnny.
I'm not a 1.5 speed guy. I like the actual time.
I like it slower. Spartan Johnny, as a lifelong Bills fan, I am quasi-empathetic to the suffering Lion fan endures. I'm also somewhat perplexed at the strange level of Super Bowl expectations. Did you know only 4 teams have gone from missing the playoffs to Super Bowl champs the next year? Your quarterback is still Goff. Not trying to be an ass, you might just pump the brakes a little. Can you name the team or teams and famous quarterbacks who attained said achievements?
So only 4 teams have gone from missing the playoffs to Super Bowl champs next year. It's Rams and Kurt Warner. It's got to be, is it a Brady Bucks thing? I don't know that he listed a link in the actual tweet. I can't name them off the top of my head, but
hey, 4 teams did it. So
4 teams have done it. Yeah, let's make it 5. No, I'm nervous about Jared Goff. I'm nervous that the Lions are going to get to a place where they're ready to win, and Goff has a ceiling that doesn't allow them to win at a certain level, and then they become every other team that misses their window because they don't have a quarterback. That's the risk they're taking. But
when the national media talks about the Lions, you can figure out whether or not they really know what was going on last season by they talk about how Goff was bad last year. Other people just go, "Oh, Goff at the end of the season, yeah."
But it was
October
a struggle at the beginning
of November, it was complete ass.
That game they lost like 29-0 to the Patriots. Not great. Yeah.
David Jackson next. Why does the Big Ten want to add 4 schools? Is winning a title game with the SEC that important? What about Notre Dame?
Notre Dame seems to be content to sit this one out and be an independent. And I don't blame Notre Dame now. Like, I used to think Notre Dame was being a pain in the ass and that they should join. But if this is going to be a 24-team Big Ten where it's hard to win the league, it'll be easier to get to the playoff as an independent for them, even if they can't get they don't have the ability to get the bye because they can't win a conference title. If that stipulation stays, as long as there's the value that they're getting with media rights and with apparel and all the stuff that's happening for them right now, there's no financial incentive for them to join a league, and now there's no competitive incentive. I think.
But isn't there a little bit of incentive? I mean, you pretty much have to go undefeated for Notre Dame. I mean,
not
maybe
the
a
12-team
one-loss,
playoff.
maybe a one.
Two loss. The 12-team playoff, they'll be able to get in with two losses.
Right.
Yeah, especially with the schedule they play. The 12-team playoff, I think, changes. I think if they hadn't gone to a 12-team playoff, Notre Dame may have come to a point where they really needed to be in the league. Or if the playoff had really been even smaller than, I think as long as it's as big as 12, I think that helps Notre Dame. Yeah.
David Jackson, I'm indifferent to Thorne's Auburn career. Should I care if he wins or if he fails?
I mean, it depends.
Did you like Peyton Thorne when he was here?
Yeah.
I don't know. You can root for him.
Yeah, if you like him. Yeah, I mean, if you like the guy for being more than the football player of your team, yeah, or you want to see him do well, absolutely. It's really.
Or if you're mad he left, you can root for him to suck ass.
Yes,
it's a free country. David, should I be offended that MSU considers me a MAC level fan as thy shadow snubbed me?
I would not be offended.
Didn't he do this one last week too?
I don't think so.
Thy shadows? Yeah, he did.
Did it? No, I would not be offended. Yeah.
Yeah, he would be offended.
Do not be offended. Do not be offended. There are lots of people who got snubbed and weren't considered
pissed off.
High enough influencer. Yeah.
Last one from David. Yes, I know Kogels is technically a Flint company, but Jesus Christ, isn't Graham never having heard of Kogels the same as him shouting to the heavens that I am clueless about Detroit culture? Did you say that about David?
No, it was I didn't know the Kogels hot dogs. I had never heard of them.
I know.
Treese
was like, what the why he doesn't know Kogels?
Well, in Detroit culture, let's be honest, I'm a Lansing guy. Detroit is a different. I mean, I love Michigan, but I don't love Detroit any more than I would Grand Rapids or Leelanau or Marquette. Like Detroit doesn't get my attention more than anybody else. I don't know every company that's in Marquette or Flint or anywhere else. I probably should have known this. There are lots of things I don't know. I only have so much room in my brain, and I choose donuts, really groovy donuts, and that they have a better place.
Gator next, Mr. Jason. How are you not playing the spin zone every time Graham tries to stick up for his butt buddies at the blue wall? Love you guys.
Again,
you are about to enter the spin zone with noted newspaper columnist and radio host Graham Couch.
I will say I do hit it sometimes, but I can't play the whole
thing every time. Yeah. I mean, by the way, Blue Wall Donuts, you send me those, maybe I'll start to think I should, if you get a dozen Blue Wall Donuts made, one of the things Groovy Donuts does custom donuts, though, seriously, as well as anybody. I tweeted out today from our account just some of the recent ones they've done with rainbows and clouds and different things. You can get, if you want to get the new Big Ten on donuts, you want Washington and Oregon and Purdue and Indiana and one donut each, they will do that for you. Go to groovydonuts.com. Again, 2 locations. I was just there on Thursday. Got the red velvet, by the way, of course. 2 locations on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing and also in Williamston. Open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Each Thursday through Sunday.
Bo McJunkins next. If Mel Tucker lied about a cheeseburger, would Mitch Albom write a column about Mel not being able to handle that much money? Still waiting for Dan Wetzel's piece about the Michigan program being out of control like he did about Tucker's.
Yeah, again.
But you have to admit, though, if Tucker got caught up into some stuff like Harbaugh did, I think it would be, no pun intended, wall-to-wall coverage.
Yeah. Send me examples when this stuff happens. And again, you can send me examples. Send me examples because I want to see them. And I'm not saying there aren't elements. Mitch Albom is undeniably pro-Michigan relative to MSU. There's no question about that. And that does factor some things. And that That doesn't factor their editorial decisions, but he has complete freedom to write what he wants. But so I understand why things appear the way they do, and there can be elements of that at times, without question. And MSU, more than other schools, has been picked on. Some of it deserved, some of it not in recent years.
Bo McJunkins. Why did we never hear the MSU players' side of the story with the tunnel? Absolutely no way those Michigan players were running and skipping into the tunnel with peace offerings, yet no one bothered to tell that side.
Yeah, and I don't know as those guys are made available. If the problem you get into now, and this is a no-win situation, like Solari already took shit for like having Kari Crump's back at practice. Absolutely news. Interesting. He was asked about him. That's his job. People are like, oh, you're bringing up old shit. It's like, okay. So the problem is when these guys aren't like available in February, guess when they get to be spoken to first? It's at practice. And guess what hasn't been litigated yet? This is what, and I meant litigated is a story yet, and hearing their side of things, that's going to get asked. This is what Izzo has always done really well. When Adrian Payne, when Brandon Dawson threw Adrian Payne through a wall at Penn State, which, when the police were called and they were both suspended for half a game or whatever, they didn't close the locker room or not allow those guys to get talked to, and it becomes a bigger story. Izzo grabbed both of them by the collar, sat them down at the press conference, and said, have at them. It becomes a one-day story, and you better be on the road trip traveling. If you're not traveling media, you miss your opportunity. You don't get the next one. They were made available. Why weren't you in State College? They did that with Derek Nix. They did it with, was it Aaron Harris? I mean, getting out and talking about it. And I understand that some of this stuff has been charges that have recently
Aaron Harris.
changed.
Haven't heard that name in a minute.
Yeah.
Shep next to give a review of the TV series The Wire with no spoilers.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Out a while.
I mean, the best sort of, what do I say, the best character
Tony
study.
Soprano?
Yeah. Best character study, and it's phenomenal. There's some seasons people don't like as much as the others. I think it still holds up, even though the technology is going to get more and more outdated. It is what I think was a tough, sad, real look at a lot of different elements of life in Baltimore at that time, and like it's complicated. Like you root for characters who are not all great, and that's
if you like rooting for the bad guy.
But
The Wire's for you.
Yeah, there's some good people in it too. I mean, it's a phenomenal show. Just I would say watch it. That's not a great review because I don't want to do spoilers. Like that's my big thing. I like to go in fresh.
Yeah, but it's been how many years though?
Going fresh.
Okay. Jarrett next. If you played for the Savannah Bananas, would it be because of your dancing or baseball skills?
Depends how much I'd had to drink, but I would say baseball skills.
Oh, dancing, right? Jarrett, what's a team in college football that projected to be meh but ends up winning 10+ games?
Northwestern. No,
Didn't.
just meh, but gets to 10. I do think. Is Iowa count as meh? Like I think they're over. They're 8 is what they're projected. And
They're
I think they
meh
have a chance.
because their offense is ass.
And we'll see. I think they can be good this year.
No, I know, but last year.
Oh yeah.
They were complete ass. Steve, why do people insist on using a speakerphone to talk in public? Airports, restaurants, even public restrooms. Really?
It's
Dude,
kind of.
I heard a guy talk on a speakerphone in a urinal or in a bathroom, like at a rest stop, and I'm like taking a dump. Like, dude, that is a free. I'm envious of a brain that can function like that, though. Like, I just walk in free willy nilly on a speakerphone.
I think AirPods should be given out free to anybody who does that because you can have. I mean, it's not great to have the conversations yourself in some of these areas, but to hear the other person. And if I'm the other person, I don't want to be heard in those situations either.
Yeah, but by talking to the person. If you're friends with a person like that, you're on some sort of speaker. Sparty Ben next. Is Michigan fans being mad about the Tom Izzo football building the saddest thing you've seen on this app?
I've seen a lot of sad things on this app, so I would say no. It was a little weird, and I think the original tweet was about it being after the stadium. Look, the bottom line is Ishbia gave the money, had the naming rights. He named it after Izzo. Izzo cared about football. Izzo At one point, probably wanted to be Michigan State's football coach. I don't think that's entirely bullshit. And
doesn't Michigan wear a jersey with a basketball player on it?
Well, but you've had ADs and coaches, Yost and all these guys who are on,
But is it weird because Izzo's a basketball coach and it's a football building?
I mean, it's
right?
it's a little odd, but it's not like, why is that a deal? It's just, again, when we talk about the previous question about the two teams need to play more than these two teams right now to settle something, it's not going to settle anything. It never settles anything. It just gives you like a pause for a week.
Sparty Ben, have you been in the new locker room?
I have not.
Looks sweet.
It does look like a pretty cool thing. I thought it was like a really nice RV when I first saw it.
Sparty Ben, is the Big Ten possibly adding Oregon and Washington a good thing? I would rather see North Carolina, Clemson, Louisville, and Florida State.
Louisville will never be in. I don't think Clemson, Florida State. North Carolina, if they wanted to be in, North Carolina and Virginia out of the ACC are the types of schools that the Big Ten would look at seriously. But to what end at this point? And why? I don't know. But the two super conference idea just pisses me off. And the problem is the Big Ten has been predatory at this point. And the Big Ten is becoming bad for college football in a sense. And I don't like that because I've always tried to stick up for the Big Ten.
Jacob Thalen next. Do you ever fix things in post? I feel like half of the show is Graham telling stories about soup, shitting, or peg-legged war veterans, in which he proclaims we will fix it in post. When the story is weird or uncomfortable, I listen on Spotify and can confirm you don't fix it in post.
Yeah, we don't. We don't.
I appreciate that he actually thought we would go back and fix something in post.
I think, yeah. I don't even. Do we know how? We do know how. We'd have to because it goes live. The way we do the show is it is a live podcast, unlike most podcasts. So that is a different element that works to our advantage and disadvantage at times. And there is a way, like we could take it down and edit it. And so if I said something really stupid,
yeah, but it would have to be off the charts.
Yeah, it'd have to be. Oh my God, they're gonna fire me at the LSJ if that gets out. We gotta. Yeah, I would have to, and I would try not to do that.
Yeah. Fart soup next. What is Graham feeling when he writes his what if columns? Is he having a miserable day and wants us all to get on the sad train of misery with him?
I actually really enjoy it. I think
I haven't read that yet. I got to read that.
Yeah, I think the feedback I've gotten is a lot of people really enjoy it, but it also, it does. There's a little lamenting.
I have a bad memory, so I do enjoy not hearing some things. Because when I do see it, I'm like, oh, right, that's right.
And I think the farther you get away from things, what ifs wind up being less painful, a little less lamenting. Now, it's important to remember that what ifs can work both ways. And I do have one what if in there that's positive. And
just one?
Yeah, I think just one. Well, and I don't do injuries. And one of the reasons I don't do injuries is you can do beyond the obvious ones, the Kalen Lucas and the Kenyon Martin injuries to Cincinnati and stuff. You can do lots of little injuries. This sprained ankle in the NCAA tournament, this guy wasn't available, and it's really hard to know what would have happened. You could do one just on injuries. But with like the Kalen Lucas thing, I do think Kalen Lucas injury cost Michigan State the 2010 national championship. But there's a chance that Michigan State doesn't win the 2000 title if Kenyon Martin doesn't break his leg for Cincinnati.
He was a beast. Fart soup next. A few pods back, Graham said, quote, he never liked having a second ball in his hand while he was tossing it. This begs the question. If he has one ball in his hand, what's Graham tossing?
I don't even know what this means. But I know he's talking about the tennis.
Sounds like a SAT question.
Yeah, but he's not. I mean,
what is Graham tossing? His bag?
Yeah, I think this is supposed to be a gross, like...
Tossing your mule around?
Yeah, let's
spreading out some taffy.
Fix it in post. Take this one out.
Fart soup next. Now that Twitter is X, does that mean the show is going to stop censoring Hans Jurgen and begin a new segment called X-Rated Thoughts with Hans Jurgen?
I don't know that we want to encourage Hans's thoughts to get any more X-rated.
I mean, we can only go one way with a sponsor, and that's like either porn or like Hawaii Spa. Right?
Yeah. Do we want to go into that realm?
I mean, I'm down. I'm in.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not above anything like that. Rich Searing next. Any word on place kicking and punting yet? We could hardly hit an extra point last season, let alone a field goal. And now with Behringer gone, who fills the void? And from Adam, we haven't really seen anything on the kicking game since the struggles last fall. No kicking in the spring game gives the impression that they didn't have much to show. I'm concerned. Should I be concerned?
There's reason to be. I would be more concerned than not concerned because they're unproven there. And
so Central Michigan is the first time we're going to see these kick. Like, surprise.
Yes.
Here we are.
Yes. And
That's going to be fun.
There's not a lot proven. And look, sometimes these guys wind up being okay, and sometimes they don't. And I think that's, Jonathan Kim is probably the kicker. Ryan Eckley, maybe Michael O'Shaughnessy, probably the punter. Not a lot of.
That's scary, right? Though
it's just the unknown. It's always the college kickers can be average, can be not great.
But if they had a boomer kicker, like a guy that just boomed it, I guarantee there would be some buzz.
If Michigan State had a great kicker, returning great kicker, it would. In a season like this, it could be 2 wins.
Rich Searing. If there is going to be any improvement to Spartan Stadium, can they do something about the main concourse? It's incredibly crowded under there, especially during halftime.
I don't know what you do. I mean,
you'd have to expand it, or
you got 80,000 people or 75,000 people. A lot of them trying to get food and use the bathroom at once. I'm always amazed that people wait. Like when I used to go to games with my dad when I was a teenager, I would always leave for the. I would ask try and get his $20 bill, hope he forgot about the change. And then I would, with like a minute to go in the second quarter, head down. And I could usually use the bathroom before the crowds are coming down and then be in line not too deep for an ice cream cookie sandwich.
But you don't want to miss a play, though.
You miss.
What if there's something going on before half?
And if they were driving or something, I'd hang out. But if it was like 50-yard line, didn't look like they were going to score, you risk it a little bit. I just think it's worth it not to spend your whole halftime just, That's not a story we're telling, but it is presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, by the way, which have some fantastic desserts and unbelievable drinks. If you go on their Facebook page for Midtown Brewing Company and look at some of the drinks they make, their beer selection, just a great place to have a drink after work or go out on a Friday or Saturday night, good date night on the weekend. MidtownBrewing.net to check out their menu. They've got light, they've got comfort foods. It's just, trust me, it's a place that will impress your significant other in terms of the menu, in terms of the character of the place. It's not a cliche if you can go to a date at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing.
JD next. What will you be renaming the segment once X finally catches on? X questions? Question X?
How long do you think it is before we stop saying Twitter?
Never.
I don't think so.
I'm going to keep saying Twitter questions. I can't say X. It doesn't sound. I don't think we ever do it.
So here's the comparison I would say, and it wasn't as much part of the vernacular, but Division I AA used to be what we called. Then it went to FCS. And I would say for a good 5 years after it moved to FCS, every time I wrote FCS, I would have to say formally Division I AA. And you're already seeing that in writing. Formally Twitter, when style guides for companies require they call it X, because nobody knows what the fuck X is. And the problem is Twitter is so much more part of the vernacular that I think it's a real question within 5 years whether we're not saying it anymore.
JD, thoughts on the development of a Tom Izzo Groovy Donut store? Like he gets a whole store, just Izzo related donuts.
His favorite donuts that look like him, Spartan donuts.
It's not completely dumb.
Yeah, Monica and Andrew might be up for that.
That would be amazing.
If Izzo serves the donuts, helps bake the donuts. Thursday mornings with Izzo at the Groovy Donuts.
The Golden Jacket fritter.
Yeah. By the way, you can get a Tom Izzo. They'll do a Tom Izzo donut for you. One of the many things they will do. If you want Tom Izzo donuts at your tailgate, Groovy Donuts. Look, Groovy Donuts are great at tailgates as well.
Don't coach my team.
Great at weddings, great at any event. Go to groovydonuts.com. And again, 2 locations, East Lansing on Lake Lansing Road and in Williamson.
Some dude next. The blue wall is a good August topic. Jason, with your courtroom experience, can you please lead the witness? Graham, you have said that there is no blue wall, but have alluded to the existence of something more like a blue curtain, yes? You have also stated that there is data to support that among the 8 spots and teams that Michiganders are supposed to care about, that Michigan football is really high on that list, maybe 1, 2, or 3, yes? Can we simply say that these guys are wearing blue panties and admit that the Detroit media is regularly catering to its primary cash-paying customer base? The political right has Fox News. The left has MSNBC. Michigan has the complete Detroit media, and we have Chad Latz. Sounds like we're winning.
Well said, some dude. No, there is something to, if you just go based on interest, Michigan football deserves more coverage than Michigan State football. They try very hard not to do that, but and interest matters. I mean, if interest didn't matter, we would cover Lansing Community College basketball over any preps because they're better players. But there's more interest often in more of the high schools, right? So interest does matter. Where you're located matters. And like I've said, if you can find specific, I'm willing to let people build their case to me and be open-minded to it.
Some do. Jason, can you please, as Coach K, chastise John Shire for scheduling a November Duke road game, F-bombs included? I think it's among the funniest bits on the show.
No. Shire, what the fuck are you doing scheduling a road game before November, before Christmas? Do you hate Christmas?
Neurotic. Don't be diplomatic. Is it pathetic that MSU is on par with Maryland for recruiting?
I mean,
bazooka to your head.
Michigan State fans may not love it, but Maryland has put a lot of emphasis on the football. Now, I don't think they care about it quite as much as a fan base, but they've tried to win big there. It's an area it's got a lot of good recruits in the D.C., Virginia area. It's flush with good recruits. It's got a coach who's known for recruiting. And so I don't think it's pathetic. It's probably, if you're MSU, you don't want the Maryland comparison. But Maryland's coming off 8 wins, and they're on the rise. We'll see where they actually are. I think one of the challenges for Michigan State this year is after those first 2 games, it's not just Washington. It's then Maryland at home and Iowa. And they need to make sure that they get out of that 5-game stretch at 3-2. I really do think that. Because if they lose those 3 in a row, it's going to feel like the season is teetering the wrong way. They need to win one of those games, and I think beating Maryland would be significant.
Neurotic Graham, if State has a competent kicking game, will that translate into a victory or 2 more?
Very much perhaps this year, because I don't think they've got a huge margin for error. Absolutely.
Neurotic. Jason, have you ever ridden the Greyhound bus and regretted your life's decisions? Or do you have any good public transportation stories? I don't think I've ever been on a Greyhound. We did take a bus to a Red Wings game. This was before I started dating Treese. I was dating someone else. And someone that just got married. I won't mention his name, but he was also with me before he was engaged. And so we brought a giant cooler. It was actually through the girl I was dating's work. So it was all of like her work people that were on this bus, and he and I didn't know anyone. So we got on this bus, got completely shit-faced, met 2 ladies on the bus. Now, I was dating someone, so I did not partake. My friend, who will not be mentioned.
Jordan?
Maybe. I don't have many friends. So anyway, so we go to the Red Wings game. And this was Joe Louis. I think it was Joe Louis, right? And Joe Louis. Anyway, so he starts talking to this girl. Everybody's just shit hammered because the whole bus ride there is an hour and a half of debauchery. Like, you're just getting hammered. So he ends up going down to the bathroom with this girl, or going down to the concourse. And I'm like, looking at him, like, what is going on? Never see him again, right? He is absolutely. So he ended up going into the bathroom with this girl in the bathroom line. Like, cutting in the line, and went into the stall with this girl. Everybody's like, what are you doing? So he and this girl get kicked out. Now we have to take this bus all the way back to Lansing. So he lives in Royal Oak at the time. So I have to get on this bus. I don't want to leave him. I'm like, Jesus, do we leave him? Like, what is going on here? So I sit there and try to look for him around Joe Louis there. And people are absolutely livid because they can't leave until I get back. So I can't find him. So it comes to find out, he takes an Uber back to his place since he lives in Royal Oak, but his car was in Lansing at my place. So so anyway, I get back on this bus, and there's this dagger. Like, the whole bus absolutely despises me because they had to wait an hour. Apparently I was gone for an hour because I was hammered. I was on the phone. I couldn't find anyone. So I did find out what it's like for having a whole bus. So I had to ride back an hour and a half, just kind of like
That's
sitting there and everybody just steaming at me. And then me and that girl broke up after that.
what an inspiring,
We were work people.
inspiring story
Hey.
presented by Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue. By the way, great place for brunch. Good Sunday brunch at Midtown Brewing Company is as good as it gets. That's better than my story on the prison bus that I've told, and we'll tell again at some point.
But how do you take a girl into one of those stalls ever? How could that be?
It's pretty brazen.
I mean, you have to be pretty
Yeah,
intoxicated. But.
that too.
Couch on fire next. Isn't the lack of balance in the American League crazy? East all over 500 and Central almost all under.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have this when you have small divisions. When you broke it up into the 4 divisions that they have instead of the – is it 4 divisions or 3? 4 divisions, right?
But the Yankees, I mean, if they were in the Central, holy shit.
Well, you've seen this in football. You remember the year that the NFC East was like almost all under 500, and they were and that was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It just happened. Hold on. Now I'm wondering how many divisions we have in baseball.
Shake a tail feather. Oh no, I heard them bad boys coming. Can't stop now.
Yeah, it's just 3. Okay, it's just the AL Central and East. I started thinking there were. Yeah, it is rare when you do have that 5-team divisions or whatnot that you would wind up with this situation. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon because the thing that's really the Orioles kind of finding themselves. They were the team that were at the bottom. You could count on one really bad team, and there usually wasn't another that wasn't great. I mean, it's not like those teams are going to get worse. And when you just look at who the organizations are, though, and the Indians are kind of done with their great run.
You mean the Guardians?
Guardians.
How dare you?
That's what we have to fix in post right there.
It's too woke. Couch on fire. Finally, final money ball. Most impressive player. MIP.
I didn't.
It's got to be Kohler.
Kohler had the best summer, so I would go him. I only went to I think 2 or 3 maybe, and so I don't see enough to really have an educated opinion. But Kohler, based on the stats and what I've read, was it.
Couch on fire. What are we to make of how quiet MSU football recruiting is?
Well, it's usually a June-July thing, right? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a lot of. It's usually an August thing with August fall camp, and I wouldn't make too much of it.
Dark Mantonio. If the 2021 versions of MSU and Michigan football teams played 10 times, how would the win-loss split go? MSU already has 1 win with 9 games to go, and as great as Walker was, Michigan could probably play the run differently in the other games.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it would probably go 7-3 Michigan. I mean, there's no doubt that Michigan had some physical advantages in that game other than Walker, who was the equalizer. I don't think Michigan State would have only won that game because they still would have had Walker, and they had a lot of other things going for them at that point. They still had the 2 healthy receivers going into that game. And so I think it's probably 7-3 Michigan.
Next one from Dark. Jason, do you ever attend the NSCC? That is the National Graham for Baseball Card Collectors. I actually did. We went 2 years ago when it was in Chicago. Maybe next year in Ohio. But yeah, one time. It was awesome. Dark Mantonio, what the hell ever happened to the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 alliance?
The Big Ten happened. USC happened. And the Big Ten wanted USC in the LA market, and they lied.
Last one from Dark Mantonio. With all the germs and grime in the world, do you ever spray your clothes with virus-killing spray? Do you wash your pants and shirts after every single time wearing them? Underwear and socks? I know the answer about washing. At least I hope I know the answer.
I don't virus-killing spray on clothes, but I do a lot of laundry. I mean, I pretty much.
So you wear? I mean, I would wear it. Like, it depends on the laundry day, but I could just flip a pair of underwear inside out.
Oh, never.
I've definitely worn socks 2 times.
I mean, I'll if I wore socks yesterday and I get up and I haven't showered and I'm going on a walk first thing in the morning, I'll wear yesterday's socks maybe, but I wouldn't go out and do.
But if you wear, like, let's say shorts and a T-shirt and you just wore it around the house, do you like really throw it in the wash again? Like,
basketball shorts I may wear a couple times, but like not to play basketball, just to have around. But if once I shower, whatever's going on my body is clean.
What about a towel? Do you have to?
I will use a towel 3-4 times. A good
3
towel.
or 4.
Now
I've gone a month.
Oh God, no, they don't smell.
No,
and sometimes you don't know it. But like if you have a towel that's a little musty and you dry yourself off, that must sticks, man. You got to be careful.
Oh, noted. Cucker Tartleson. What is the difficulty in submitting one question for listeners? Ignorance, incompetence, spite, possibly, maybe all of the above. Did we say one question?
Well, we do always say one, but if we only want one, we'll say it. Like if there are times where we're trying to do a lot of other things on a show with Twitter questions, or we have limited time for whatever reason, then I'll try to be more specific. And a lot of times people just, because they're used to the cadence of the email, they don't recognize it and they put more in anyway. But I was good with multiple questions this time.
Hans.
We appreciate the concern, though, Cooker.
Sure. Again. Do you think the MSU defense will rank in the upper half of the Big Ten this year in football?
I mean, it's kind of an prove it, show me thing. I think the Big Ten will be, or the defense will be a little better. I would be surprised, though, given what we've seen, if they're in the upper half.
Hans. Hondo said you have diarrhea of the mouth and constipation of the brain. You taking that shit?
I don't believe Hondo said that. But
really?
But I would. About me?
And you're a good father?
I am. That was my favorite interview with Hondo ever. I was still living in Kalamazoo, where I live, by the way. And he introduced me as a better husband and father. And I was
without knowing.
I literally, I had no kids and I was not married. And I was
coaching a 6-year-old soccer team.
No, I didn't. Not that year.
Oh, Jerk Guy. Next, would you eat a pea soup filled donut? Would it be possible to make? I have to ask Andrew. Would you eat one? Would you try
I mean, I love my pea soup and I love my donuts, but there's a separation there that I'm willing to.
But for the show?
Oh, for the show, of course.
For clicks?
Yeah.
All right, Jerk Guy. What was your most difficult wank?
I'll let you answer this, Jason.
My most difficult wank? Like beating the bag? They're all pretty difficult when you think about it.
Okay.
All right. Upper to Jerk Guy. Has Jason ever tried to do anything about his constant cacology?
You know what that is?
Is it like I can't read or something?
It's the definition is a bad choice of words. Poor pronunciation. I think you have good pronunciation. I think your reading makes this show what it is, or whatever that is.
Yeah, Jerk Guy. Who will be the starting QB at the end of the season?
That's probably the better question than the start of the season, because I do think it'll be Noah Kim. And if it's not an injury, who is it and what does that mean for the season? Because if it's not, if it winds up being somebody other than Noah Kim, does that mean there were some real hiccups? How are they playing at the end of the year? I have no idea who it's going to be. I think Noah Kim will start the season.
Jerk Guy. What will fans be most enamored with this year? Marty, Jackson, or Xavier?
Oh, Xavier Booker. It's the freshman. It's the guy who has the talent, the blue chipper. That's a given.
And lastly, from the Jerk Guy, have you laid a bet on the U.S. women's national team?
I've lost money on them, but I'm betting against them. I'm betting on Sweden on Sunday morning on the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app, and you can download it.
You're betting against the United States?
Yeah. I just said that in the early part. Yeah. I mean, they've lost me money to this point. Now I'm turning against them, and I'll probably lose again.
How patriotic.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, at this point, I tried to be patriotic, and they cost me money. We appreciate Firekeepers. And again, go to the casino, download the app, and enjoy betting what we're betting. We appreciate all of you and your participation in the show, making our show. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Again, 2 locations, in East Lansing on Lake Lansing Road and in Williamston, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., Sunday through Thursday. Thanks to Midtown Brewing Company. We'll be back Sunday night. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Room.